progressive liberals who join the Republican Party to infiltrate, that crowd. Your Mitch McConnells, your Eric Cantors, your John McCain's. Well, John McCain, has a couple of kids, and one of them is Meaghy McCain. And she claims to be a little bit more of a modern conservative. Well, come on, folks. Anybody who believes that Meghan McCain is in any way, shape, or form conservative, or even possibly leaning into the libertarian arena, is sadly mistaken. She is about as conservative or libertarian as Bill Maher or Ted Kennedy. Rest in peace. Or, just pick any of them. Nancy Pelosi, Gabby Giffords, Barack Obama, Michelle Obama. She's about as conservative as that crowd, despite her lip flapping, saying, "I'm a registered Republican voter." So what? So you register Republicans so you can vote in primaries and screw them up? Okay. But she sits there and still tries to hold to the fact that she's conservative. And she says that conservatives need to get involved in this whole climate change thing. Despite the fact that the actual full scientific data, not the stuff screened out where they're throwing out anything that doesn't support their hypothesis, but when you take the full spectrum of data into account, and you actually take the historic trends of temperature rises and falls, etc., 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 there's an averaging. The further back you go, looking at the data, going all the way back to when they started collecting it, and then doing some extrapolation based on historical stories about temperatures and etc., etc., you see that there is a normalizing trend. And that by normalizing trend, I don't mean everything is going to sit there and sit in the middle. I mean, it's going to go up and down and up and down on a cycle. So, of course, the climate's going to change. It's natural. It's supposed to. It's a natural occurrence. It does not mean that there's any kind of dramatic global warming thing, or now they're talking about that it's going to be global cooling in some parts and warming in others and causing cataclysm, blah, 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 blah. And it's all the fault of human beings. It's all our fault. Yeah. And we talked about the idiots that did their little march and talked about the climate change and how we have to be better stewards of the environment. And then what did they do during the little rally? They left a mountain of litter. A mountain of litter that made the Occupy disasters look healthy. Yeah, it was that bad, folks. And then you had the Hollywood stars, so to speak, like Leo DiCaprio, please. I really do not like that guy. I never liked that whiny little boy. And I'd love him to come to me. How dare you call me a boy? Fine, Leo, I'll tell you what. I'll meet you on the mat. Army combatives. And no, you don't get to train up. You get to train up as much as I do for the fight. Let's be here like today. There's your training. Get on your private jet and come here and meet me on the mat. Anyway, I'd love to wipe your little snotty nose all over it. He's a boy. He's a little boy. A little baby boy, always has been. With a little silver spoon in his mouth ever since he played that character in that Johnny Depp movie, Please Eat Me Gilbert Grape, or whatever it was. God, that movie was lousy. And I still have yet to see any performance by DiCaprio that I would consider good. I've seen him in movies where the other supporting actors were good. The script was good. I have yet to see his portrayal, his acting, be anything other than a whiny little brat. In fact, the only movie I really, really like with him is Man in the Iron Mask, because he plays a spoiled little punk and a whiny little baby brat in two characters that he plays, because they're twins in Man in the Iron Mask. Which means he plays himself. It's not acting. He's just standing there being himself in some costume somebody threw on him. And I have not seen The Great Gatsby. I refuse to, because if there's a movie version that I consider to be good enough, DiCaprio will never beat it. It's of course Robert Redford's portrayal of The Great Gatsby. I'm sorry, DiCaprio will never, ever, ever be a Robert Redford. So, and at least Robert Redford has been known to put his money where his mouth is. Whereas Leo DiCaprio shows up to this rally, and how does he get there? Where he's going to tell us that we need to stop burning all these fossil fuels. He uses his private jet with the fossil fuels. But I think I talked about all this yesterday, so I'm not going to sit there and beat on this dead horse anymore. But Meghan McCain is now telling her fellow conservatives, you know about his fellow conservative is flipping, I was about to say John Boehner, but that fits too, as what's his name from the frickin' Senate, Harry Reid. Yeah, I love how his name temporarily escaped my my brain. That's because just looking at Meghan McCain and her vacant stare tends to make your own brain cells go numb. And it's not because she's particularly good looking, because, sorry Meagy, you ain't. At least not in my eyes. And your lack of intelligence makes you even less attractive. Good Lord, folks. This just in. This wasn't even the program notes, folks. So if you're going to look for it in the program notes, I'm just going to tell you right now, it's over in BuzzPo. It just came in. It's about kid being suspended at school. Considering we just talked about some gun grabber who doesn't want guns in schools walking into a school with a gun. This is a perfect another one. This one comes from Christine over at BuzzPo. And a kid was suspended for selling soda at school. So he's come up with some alternative idea. Good on the kid. Anyway, his name is Keenan Shaw, and he's from Alberta, Canada. And his suspension was he was selling regular sugared Pepsi out of his locker. Okay, I've got an issue with the Pepsi thing, but I'm not going to get into it now. But why couldn't it be Coke or Dr. Pepper or RC? Why did it have to be Pepsi? Anyway, Shaw was selling his regular Pepsi, and the school soda police stepped in and said that he's only allowed to sell diet soda. He's not allowed to sell sugared soda at Sir Winston Churchill High School. So he's suspended for vending a sugary substance. Dun, dun, dun. So he turned around and he's like, okay, he can store it in his locker. He can bring it to school. He can drink it if he brings it. He's just not allowed to sell it at the school. So now he brings it to school, stores it in his locker, and then when he goes to sell it, they walk across the street, and he does a sale, and they walk back into school. And what he says about this whole suspension and everything, he said what it was, a bunch of free advertising. Because now his business is booming. The kids don't want the stuff with the aspartame in it that's rotting their brains. They want the real sugar. Now, but then again, this is Pepsi, so it's high fructose corn syrup. But, kid, a little hint here. Why don't you switch over to Jones? At least it's made with real sugar. Just saying. But, yeah, kid's fighting back against the nutrition police who want to tell him and his fellow students what they can and can't eat. So, yeah, that's an interesting one there. So, I guess it's a perfect time to kind of talk about, or at least remind you all about, the stuff with going on with Common Core and what frameworks it has for you.
The new school year is just around the corner. Government bureaucrats are about to force millions of American children into Common Core classrooms. Our children will no longer learn traditional math and American history in their classrooms. Even worse, our children's information is going into a government database. Their test scores, height, weight, and more. Go to freedomworkscommoncorefails.com website today and download the action plan to stop Common Core and Obama's progressive allies from ruining our education system. Get the plan today at commoncorefails.com and take a stand for America's next.
Yep, there you have it, folks. Yeah. So what else do we have going on today? We've got a bunch. And some of it we can make fun of, some of it we just need to dig in and get some more information. Other stuff is kind of that need to know. Some of it's nice to know stuff. And of course, like I said, folks, when I write the program notes for here, I have a lot more than I end up talking about. I end up having to scale it back. But I'm always interested in what you want to talk about, and I'd be willing to scale some of these back even more if you've got something you want to discuss. So go ahead and give me a call here on the show at 520-226-8567. I'll put you on the air and we'll talk about it. So there you go, folks. Go ahead and call in. In the meantime, let's talk about our beloved president. Yeah, and what's going on.
You don't have a right to know everything in a separation of powers government, my friend. That is the difference between a parliamentary government and a separation of powers government.
Yeah, well, Eleanor, yeah, we disagree on that one greatly. Well, folks, if you haven't been paying attention, there was increased strikes against Islamic State targets. They're still trying to find somebody to claim responsibility for the strikes because the U.S. and the coalition partners are saying, we didn't do this round. It may have originated from the al-Assad regime there in Syria. I'd say it originated from Iraq, but they don't exactly have an air force. So, but yeah, somebody did something, and targeted them. However, the U.S. did conduct some strikes against this new terrorist group that has just been talked about for the last couple of days called Khorasan. Yeah, they ain't that new, folks. Somebody's just trying to do some rebranding here. Let me tell you a little bit about this group, what I can legally tell you from my experience and my research in my past. Now, I don't know if the current spin within the intelligence community is still the same, but when I was in, this group still existed. We knew who they were, but we didn't bother sitting there and separating them out with a special name. But they are pretty much like they're kind of your special guerrilla forces within Al-Qaeda. They're not really a separate group or a splinter group or an affiliated group. They're more like the hardest core heart of the operational direct action special jihadist snowflakes within Al-Qaeda and the Al-Qaeda umbrella. There's a lot of different groups within Al-Qaeda. In reality, they're more like just subcells or groups of cells operating in this area or that area, and they still tend to fall under this general umbrella, this decentralized umbrella, which makes it extremely difficult. They don't have a very strict and structured command and control system, which is one of the reasons why going after the Islamic State command and control nodes may not have been as effective as many people think it is, because they're not a traditional military. They're trying to model one to give themselves legitimacy, but they're still not a splinter group from Al-Qaeda. They're still part of Al-Qaeda. They're kind of the attempt to legitimize the whole jihad in the public view, at least within the countries that they're conducting their terrorist activities in. So they're trying to model after a more conventional force, and that's always been part of the design, part of the plan. So, from my experience, my perspective, of course, I'm open to anybody within the intelligence community that is willing to bring me into the special places and discuss that kind of stuff with me and tell me that I'm wrong and show me proof of that, and I'll recant. I will give you guys that data because I won't be able to, but if I'm wrong, I'll gladly look at it and correct myself. But ISI, or Islamic State, or whatever you want to call them this week, and this other Khorasan group, they're all part of Al-Qaeda, or part of that other greater overarching classification or group known as Islamic extremist terrorists. And these are mostly non-state sponsored. They consider themselves their own sort of government or country, or some kind of a country without geographic borders. It's more borders of ideology, and they believe that that ideology is spreading in anywhere that there's one person of their ideology that they have conquered that place, and they now own that country as part of their greater ideological entity. That's the way they operate, folks. And then, of course, they think that means that they get to decide all the justice and the government and everything else in there because of it. Well, they did some strikes against this 50-member special operations cell linked to Al-Qaeda, or that's part of Al-Qaeda. Now, we don't know how effective it was. We just know that they were planning attacks within or against the United States. So we'll never know if they actually were or weren't, because now if they were and that was disrupted, or those plans were disrupted or delayed, now the only thing we'll know is nothing has happened. So when nothing happens, that's it. So we don't know. That will not be proof that they definitely were. Now, if we didn't do anything and then the attacks came, then that would prove that they definitely were. But right now, all we can do is sit back and feel secure that somebody did something, and if they were planning on doing something bad, it should not happen now. So there you have it, folks. Meanwhile, while he was going and giving his various speeches, both talking about the military actions against the ISI, and then of course then going up to address the UN and say all the U.S. is doing to support the global war on climate change, because the United States has to be the worst country in the world when it comes to all this stuff, right? No, folks. In fact, 2 of the 3 worst countries when it comes to pollution and fossil fuel use and regulations and environmental protections and all that stuff. 2 of the top 3 didn't even show to the little gathering there at the UN. And of course we're talking about both China and India. So, but Obama was there talking about how bad the U.S. is and how he's going to change the U.S. and then we're going to be the examples for the whole world. Yeah. Kiss my left knee and lick my right patella, because he doesn't know what he's talking about. He's sitting there supporting junk science. But anyway, when he showed up to do these 2 different speeches, somebody caught him on, I forget which one it was, but caught him as he walked off of Marine One, that's the helicopter, and saluted the Marines that were there. The Marines saluted him as they have to, or are supposed to by protocol. And how did he return the salute? He lifted his little pumpkin spice caramel cafe latte, and that was like his form of a return salute. Yeah. Those of you who served in the military, senior NCOs, if I have any senior NCOs out there listening, former senior NCOs, and you or one of your NCOs underneath you, especially those of you who are sergeants major, saw somebody salute a lieutenant, and saw that lieutenant just like raise his coffee as a return salute, what would you do to that lieutenant? Or what would you have your battalion or brigade commander do with that lieutenant and a little talking to about returning salutes? So, was that a proper return of courtesy? Was that proper military respects? If you turn around and you watch President Bush, who did serve in the military, but recognizes that he's a civilian, when he was saluted, he returned the salute. It wasn't a salute to his head because he was no longer in uniform. He did the proper salute that you're supposed to do in civilian attire, even if you are in the military. And that's the hand to heart. You watch him every single time he returns a salute with the hand over heart. Not a raise of a paper cup containing coffee. So the levels of the disrespect coming from